In this episode of the Courageous Public Health Podcast, Dr. Malaika Simmons reflects on what it means to trust yourself, stay aligned with your values, and lead with intention, even within systems that can pressure you to disconnect from who you are. From navigating experiences of bias and self-doubt to helping others make values-aligned leadership decisions, Dr. Simmons shares how awareness, empathy, and alignment have shaped her life and work. This conversation explores courage, identity, empathy, wellness, and what becomes possible when we stop trying to control everything and start responding intentionally to the moment in front of us. You're listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast, episode 63.
To all the courageous women leading in public health, this podcast is your space to turn up the volume on your courage. This space centers your voice. This space celebrates your passion. This space amplifies your courage. My role? To listen, to amplify, and to stand with you in the fight for equity. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock. I am an epidemiologist, consultant, the founder and CEO of Courageous Public Health, and the host of the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Each week, I have real, unfiltered conversations with women in public health about the challenges you face, the power you hold, and your vision for the future. We talk about the authenticity, vulnerability, and courage that you bring, not just to public health, but to every part of your lives. Because courage is about action, even in fear. It's about taking up space, leading unapologetically, refusing to be erased, and knowing you never have to do it alone. If you're ready to turn up the volume on your courage, if you're ready to take up space, if you're ready to smash the racist, patriarchal, cisnormative, heteronormative, ableist, capitalistic systems, then listen to this new episode.
Hello, and welcome to the Courageous Public Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Christy McClamrock. One of the things these conversations continue to reveal is how much of leadership happens in the space between what we experience and how we choose to respond. Every day, people navigate expectations, assumptions, setbacks, and uncertainty. Some of those moments pull us away from ourselves. Others invite us to pay closer attention to who we are, what matters most, and how we want to move through the world. Through Courageous Public Health, I partner with organizations to support leaders navigating complexity, systems change, and high-stakes decision-making with greater clarity, sustainability, and alignment. Today's conversation is with Dr. Malaika Simmons. Dr. Simmons is a researcher, experience designer, and CEO of Momentology Media, LLC, where she helps leaders and organizations build human-centered systems that sustain performance without overextension. With a background spanning healthcare, public health, and large-scale national initiatives, her work sits at the intersection of leadership, systems design, and human experience. She is the creator of the Momentology Method, a human operating system for sustainable success, and the originator of extraction fatigue, a pattern she identified in high-performing leaders where capability becomes the system's safety net. Dr. Simmons' work helps public health leaders and mission-driven professionals recognize where systems are unintentionally draining their people and redesign them for alignment, trust, and execution. Here's my conversation with Dr. Malaika Simmons. I'm here today with Malaika Simmons. Very excited to have you on the podcast. How's it going?
Going well. It's Wednesday. It's my favorite day, so we're doing well.
Yes. So I will point out that we attempted this like a week ago, and we had all these technical problems, and we decided to start again on a new day.
That's
so
right.
It's a new day. Sometimes that's what you have to do.
Exactly. The reset button. It's okay.
The reset button. Yep, absolutely. Big fan of the reset button. So let's start by having you introduce yourself, if you would.
Of course. I am Malaika, as in I like a Malaika. and I am the Chief Empathy Officer at Momentology Media, LLC. Momentology Media was structured and created behind a methodology that I created called the Momentology Method. The Momentology Method is centered around three major principles: awareness, gratitude, and expectance. I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit. I
Yes.
consider it a human operating system. And I believe that if we are true and clear on who we are and our identity and our purpose, then we can act in aligned action. Any and everything is possible.
I love that so much. So before we go into the first question, we need to do our shout out to Linda Animashan for introducing us. I always love to give people credit when they introduce me to amazing people. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda. Exactly. Oh, and a secondary shout out because we found out, right, when we were talking last time, that you had the lovely, beautiful LaTanya Bynum on your show, right? And she's another just ray of sunshine. So also want to give a shout out to her as well. I love being in the company of good people.
Yeah, me too. That's one of the amazing things that has come out of doing this podcast is just that, like, the number of connections I have to really incredible people has just grown, and that's really that's exciting for me. And also that maybe this connects people as well. I feel like that has also happened. So, okay, well, let's go to the first question, which is about, of course, it's about courage. So I always like to frame courage because it's often used interchangeably with the word bravery, and they're not the same. Right. So bravery is taking action without fear, while courage is taking action despite fear. And so it's courage that I'm really interested in when you have to push through that fear. So I would love for you to share some experiences from your life, your professional life, your personal life, where you have acted courageously.
Whenever I hear courage and we talk about courageous actions, I think about an instance when I was leading a major piece of work for the federal government, and it was very high visibility, failure is not an option. We could be found on more than one desk as the mantra. And I had a gentleman that was working on our team. He was fantastic. I put him in front of the client because he was so fantastic very often. But I had noticed during our one-on-ones that he just didn't seem like his self, like the self that I hired, the version of him that I hired. And it sounded like he was just like kind of not necessarily burned out, but just frankly bored, right? So he asked at the time, he said, maybe I should get my PMP. I think that'll get me going. And I was like, absolutely, fantastic. Signed off on it, got his PMP a couple months later, and he still was like, yeah, no, that wasn't that wasn't it. So like
good for him for knowing that.
Right,
good
right,
for him
exactly.
for knowing himself. Yep.
Let's talk through it. What is it? He's like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm not really making a difference. And I'm like, that's interesting. So during one of our VP meetings with another VP, she was looking for someone to lead a project. And I was like, yeah, this guy would be fantastic. So I recommended him to her. She interviewed him and she was like, oh my gosh, where have you been hiding him? He's fantastic. And she didn't stop thanking me for months after she brought him onto the project. Like, he turned the project around. All the things were great and that sort of thing. And he went on to actually lead that project, and then a little later left the company, started his own firm. He became an award-winning consultant and running his own firm now, is doing fantastic. And the reason why I bring this up as a courageous move is because the client was not happy initially, right? Because he was such an amazing asset to the team. And so it took me having to talk the client down off the ledge, like it'll be fine, right? But also just it was courageous of him to do that inside work to see, right, what he needed and that he wasn't really being fulfilled. And I think, looking back, I didn't see it as courageous at the time, but looking back, there could have been a lot of repercussions for me making a very drastic change to our team at what was considered a high stakes time. But seriously, all the times are high stakes, right?
That is true. All the time.
You know what I mean? When people talk about priorities, I'm just like, everything can't be the number one priority. Right. That's literally what priority means. Right. And so I knew that he was fantastic. I knew that he wasn't happy. And I knew that we were doing a disservice to him and to our company, right? To have him in a role that wasn't working. And we recovered. Strange.
Yeah, it was
right?
Okay. It worked
the
itself
other
out.
team members came around. We got the things done. We did everything we needed to do. And if he had left the company, just left, or something drastic had happened, we still would have been in the same boat. So I realized later that it was somewhat courageous. I just didn't feel it at the time. I felt like this is my team member. This is someone who I am supporting and mentoring. And how do I help him be the best version of himself? And so what I didn't realize is that a lot of times we don't recognize the courage until we step through it.
Absolutely.
Right? So
absolutely.
That was one of the most just warming versions of courageous acts that I've experienced.
Well, I mean, that's such a great example because I think it's something that a lot of us wouldn't recognize in the moment. But that's like being a generous leader, right? You were a generous leader with that person, right? It wasn't about what was best for you. It was about what was best for him. And, you were the leader. You were the leader. And I think I think many of us have examples where we are generous leaders, and that does take courage, right? That is certainly not the environment that we live in today. So to be a generous leader is really doing something special as far as I'm concerned.
And it takes, and I mentioned it at the top, right? So the three major pillars of momentology are awareness, gratitude, and expectation. The way that plays in is that I had to have an awareness of what was going on around me, not just me leading the team and all of because we were doing fantastically with him in that position. But I had to have an awareness that, hey, this is not holistically, it was not going well, right? Because if one person is not doing well, then the team is actually not doing well. And then gratitude, I was very thankful for everything he'd given. He didn't threaten to quit. That was the last thing on his mind. He was in no, I won't say in no danger, but it was not likely that was going to be his remedy. He just was like, I'm just at this point. So being grateful for everything that he had already contributed, and then grateful that I had another contribution to make at another part of the company by saying, hey, you guys might want to take a look at this guy, right? Yeah. And then having the expectation that we were going to do a wonderful, fantastic job on this project, no matter what, is what got it done. So I think that those things just kind of came back to me this is the right thing to do. And that's really what it was about.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that example. That's a great example. Yeah. Any more examples that you want to share with us of courage in your life?
Okay, so personal example, which is sometimes courage is not even, you don't even have a choice.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So sometimes you don't get the kudos for being courageous because what else are you going to do? Right.
Right.
So I have 5 boys and a girl. And so we have not a very large, because I've met someone who has 9 or 10. So
okay. It's not the largest possible, but it's still a big family.
Right. But we have a pretty big family. So we have 5 boys and a girl. And when my daughter was on her way, first of all, my boys lost their mind because they were just they were already threatening the little whoever the person is going on the prom. I'm like, can she get here first before you're Yeah, right. But yeah, so they were understandably only girl. She has been doted on her entire life, right?
Yep.
But when we found out it was a girl, I was like, oh no. Like, what? This is a great cosmic joke. I was a tomboy, I was never pink and frilly and frills and like all that kind of thing. Like I was climbing trees. So I was like, what am I going to do with a little girl? So I was terrified of bringing a girl into the world. And for lots of reasons, right? So we all have our own traumas and or just things that we're just scared of and anxious about, right? And for me, that was like, I'm going to teach this little human, this little girl child, how to be a woman in the world when I'm still trying to figure it out for myself.
Oh, yeah.
So all sorts of insecurities started to come up. And I have a very loving family, super supportive, matriarchal family, actually. So my daughter has been wrapped in love and matriarchal power from the time
Love
she's here.
That. Yes.
But still, in the moment when it's you and God and you and like, hey, this is big, this is scary. And so I didn't have a choice because she was coming out. Right? She's coming one way or the other. But that was a moment where I had to face my own version of courageousness and say that I'm not prepared, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yes.
And being able to see that moment helped me to face lots of other things in my life where it seemed like not all of the other things were certain, right? But it seemed like I didn't have any control. And I learned that control was not the issue. My response in the moment to whatever was in front of me was more important. So I learned to let go of control because I had no control. This little girl was coming. And when I say she came with a force, she is not to be played with. Okay.
Oh, great.
That's clear from day one. But that's like, that's my personal, the journey that I've had with my daughter has been a monumental, courageous act to show up as mom in the ways that you really want to. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. I have to tell you that I just have one. So I'm on the other end of the spectrum is just one child. She's a daughter. Mm-hmm. And when I was pregnant and I learned that I was having a girl, I was so relieved because I was like, I have no idea how to parent a boy. Like I was an only child, so no siblings, no close cousins or any. So I was like, boys are, I have no idea. And so I was so relieved. And interestingly, my husband was also not relieved. He wasn't relieved, but he was happy.
Yeah.
So it's funny. It's like, it's about what our experiences are, where our confidence lies. Exactly. Yeah. Where our insecurities lie.
And it's different. It's different for everybody and it's different for every time. Cause you have the one, but if you had another one, you would have a whole set of different experiences around that experience. Right. So it's all Momentology teaches
I love that
right?
So
to
much.
Study what is the best thing that we can do in the moment that we have right in front of us. It's really essentially what life is about.
And it's cool that the word mom is actually in Momentology.
Right? Someone brought that up last week and they were asking me about Momentology. They're like, is this like mom-ontology? I was like, well.
Momentology?
I'm like, it kind of is like, right. Because I crafted it and I crafted it from my lived experience. So it's a little bit of that baked in there.
It's relevant. It's relevant.
Exactly.
It's in there. Oh, that's great.
It's in the eye of the beholder. It is what you want it to be.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. So I want to also talk with you about courage in terms of authenticity. Right. Mm-hmm. And in terms of claiming and expressing your power. And I think this is so important because we often find ourselves, we as women, often find ourselves in spaces where our power is not always welcome. And that's even more so true for racialized women. So I would love to hear about how you express and embody that courage and how you face those moments.
Oh man, this is essentially where I think lots of the pieces to Momentology and the methodology kind of came about as I was coming up through corporate and being often the only one that looked like me in rooms, and the level of security and or insecurity that happens by conformity or trying to decide to the level at which I was going to conform or not. And there are so many things that happen. And I mean, you've been around enough, you start to hear about, there's microaggression and macros and all sorts of things. And some things that just from your lived experience, you may not have experienced. But how are you taking those and giving any credence to them? Like saying that, oh, it may not have happened to me, but I can understand. Yes. Which is where I started building out sort of my empathy leadership practice. Like I was thinking about, how do people see other people? And there's a difference between empathy and sympathy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes they get conflated. And
do you want to say what the difference is? Just
name it.
Let's name the difference.
So sympathy was like, oh, I'm so sorry for you. Like, right. It's almost to a level of pity. It's like, that's so bad that that's happening to you. Whereas empathy is, I feel as you do. And the second or the other piece to it, I think the caveat to it is that some people don't realize that you can have empathy for a person and understand the lens at which they see the world. You don't have to agree with it.
Absolutely.
Right? Yes. So sometimes we avoid empathy, or we think that we shouldn't be empathetic because that means we're condoning something. That's not what it means at all. I watched all the seasons of Hannibal. Okay. We have had lively discussions about the empathy for the character Hannibal Lecter. It's like, he's a serial killer and he eats people and blah, blah, blah. I get that, but there's also traumas that happen. It's a character, right? So let's just be clear.
Sure. No, but
there's a trauma that happened to this particular person that changed his lens on the world.
Yes.
And so if you don't see through his lens, I don't have to agree with them. I'm not saying order up some people for lunch. What I'm saying is, let's understand the pathology of what got him to where he was. That doesn't mean he doesn't get punished. Doesn't mean they don't put him in jail or whatever. It just means, how do we see this coming maybe next time? So there's not another Hannibal Lecter, right? Like there are reasons for understanding that don't go to pity and don't go to condoning. And so every time I talk about empathy, there's so many different avenues you can take there, but I think it's really important to understand, especially when you're talking about public health and courageous leadership. In these spaces where we're dealing with people with various lived experience, we have to avoid pathologizing people overly so, especially racialized, especially in marginalized communities, and thinking that we know best for them because we see things differently. So that's a whole other soapbox, but I think it's important to recognize the differences between empathy and sympathy. Okay, so back to your question about the authenticity. So I was at a federal space. I was actually pregnant with my daughter, the little whirlwind that will come along and change my world forever. And I was leading a meeting, or I was supposed to be leading a meeting. And then we're getting all ready, getting the room ready, things are happening. And this older white guy came up to me and he was just like, go get me some coffee. And I'm sorry. Why are you asking me to go get you? And not even asking, he was really rude too. I was just like, wow. So it took me a minute, right, to kind of process. And I was so angry. I walked out of that conference room and got in my car and drove away.
Yep. Okay.
I was so mad. Yeah. So I didn't go far. I was a couple of blocks down the street or whatever. And I'm sitting in my car and I'm crying and I'm mad. And I realized that he didn't have me sitting in my car crying. I had me sitting in my car crying.
Oh,
now,
yes.
You could chalk some of this up to pregnancy hormones, right? Yes, I might have been a little bit emotional, but also it's about authentically being who you are in all the spaces and however you show up, and not letting other people's narratives create your world, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what he thought I was there for or whatever was going on with him. And shoot, maybe he was having a bad day. I don't know. But I got my little stuff together, and I sat there and I made a promise to my daughter. And I sat there sitting in a car thinking, I will never, ever let anyone make me change my mind about who I am. And I made a promise to her that neither would she. Like that I would raise her in a way such that she would know that her source of truth is her source of truth, period. And it's unapologetic. So that's just something that's been a through line in my parenting, I think, from that moment on. But I went back to the office and I went back up the elevator to that meeting and led the meeting. And we can say that the look on his face when I was leading and doing the things that I was doing was interesting. But it's not even the point, right? The point is I had a job to do. I was given that role because I had worked my ass off and done the things I needed to do to be in that position. And I was not going to let him or anybody else take it away from me. So that was definitely an inflection point for me in my career.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such I mean, it's so understandable why you would have that reaction of like, oh my gosh, I want to get in my car and drive away. Because that's so ugly. It's so shocking. It's so offensive. But to be able to then, I imagine you like pregnant in your car, like taking a breath, like, okay.
Yeah. There were a lot of deep breaths.
A lot of deep breaths. Yeah.
And that's what we have to do in general. Like breathe.
Yeah.
Breathing is a small little tangent, right? But breathing is so important to reset your nervous system. Sometimes we don't even realize, like, you've ever been just doing stuff or thinking about something and then you realize like your shoulders are like hunched up and you're like, how long have I been how long has this been going on? Like, what do I? Right. And then you breathe and you relax your shoulders. You're like, oh, wait, the world's not going to end right at this moment, right? Okay, it's okay. We can go on and deal with the next thing. And so I just literally had to self-coach myself through that moment. Like, this is not terminal. This is not terminal. We can move this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Breathing is I'm fascinated by breathing because, your body is set up so that you're never you can't stop breathing. You can't override the need to breathe, right? Your body, if you're letting your body is gonna, if you're able, you're like, your body is gonna breathe, and that we can consciously change our breathing.
Yes.
Right. And do different kinds of breathing. I just learned, just on my tangent here, I was just learning about, the different kinds of breathing, like breathing in through your nose and out through your nose, which is like a cooling breath, versus breathing in through your mouth and out through your breath, which is like a warming breath.
Right. Right.
And that there are, times when it helps to use one or the other, and then the breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth is sort of some sort of standard in the middle. And I think that's really interesting, and how much it can affect your nervous system is like,
oh, absolutely.
I
personally do box breathing, which is another.
Oh, box breathing. Yeah.
So I do that when I do my meditation and so forth. So it's very important. Like you said, we don't think about breathing. And it works so well for us. Look, we're still here. So imagine when we actually put some intentionality behind it, how powerful that could be, right? So if we're doing it just willy-nilly out here, just walking around breathing, that's one level. But then another level is like when we are consciously, intentionally thinking about our breath and the way that it travels through our body. I just watched some like a little clip on YouTube. My husband loves Bruce Lee, right? In martial arts, and there was like a little documentary thing on Bruce Lee, and it was talking about that punch that he does, or he did, where he had his hand straight and he just clenched it, and it would send someone flying from just 3 inches worth of force, and they couldn't figure it out. They studied this punch for so long because they could not figure out how he was able to create so much force from just that closing of a distance, because the science and the common thought was like, you needed to be way back here to, bring a haymaker. And then they studied and found out that he used energy from his foot, his planted foot that traveled up through his body, through his torso, and which created the force into the hand. So I say
Interesting.
that to say that our bodies are so well equipped for the journey that we have. We just may not know about it,
Yeah.
the things that we're
Yes.
capable of, right? And I
Yeah.
think, and we're talking about like authenticity and courageousness, sometimes in being courageousness, you find that thing that you can do that you didn't have any idea that you could do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And also the idea that, just to go back to something you said a minute ago, the idea that he did not, that man who told you to get him a cup of coffee, he did not make you feel that way.
Yeah,
He did not make you be in your car,
absolutely.
upset, sobbing. That's something that I have also really been working on in myself, is like that language around like, oh, you made me mad, or, you
That's
made
right.
me upset. It's like, no.
No.
Because someone else could have been in exactly your position and they could have had a different reaction. So that person
Absolutely.
didn't make you
Didn't
anything.
make you do a thing. We have those conversations at home around somebody made me mad. Nobody can make you mad.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Yep.
not what happens. You
Yep.
chose anger.
Yep.
You chose violence. You chose whatever the emotion is. In the same way that you choose to be one way, you can actually choose happy. Wow. The thunk, right?
Yes.
You choose the
Yes.
emotions, and then they change your thoughts, which change your behaviors.
Yeah.
And once you learn it, you actually can't unlearn it. It doesn't mean you always do it, but once you learn that it is possible, it's just, transformation.
And also when you may have an emotion, but you get to decide. I mean, that's just a signal, right? Your
Right.
emotion is just a signal to you. You decide what you do with that signal.
Yes. That's
a choice. The behavior from the signal, that's a choice. And
100%.
We can choose different things. So I love that, in the end, you chose, you felt upset, and that was a signal to you, like, oh, that was really messed up that guy made that assumption and said what he said. And your decision was like, okay, I'm going to go back in there and I'm going to lead the meeting. So beautiful.
And everything, even though we don't always recognize it at the time, everything is happening for us, right? So, why is this happening to me?
Right.
It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. There's a lesson in literally everything.
Yeah, literally
whether
everything.
or not we have conditioned ourselves to receive the information, right? To receive the data.
Yeah.
And I think about everything. I'm a qualitative researcher. Everything is data to me.
Me too. Everything is data.
Everything is data. And so I tell my clients this all the time. When such and such happened, okay, let's talk about it. Write that down. Keep that frame in mind, right? It's data. What does it mean? And matter of fact, I just posted a couple of days ago around the signal and noise, differences between signal and noise, right? And so like you were saying, there's a signal. Okay, now that I have this thing, what am I going to do with it? What is it telling me? What is it telling me about who I am or what the situation is? Everything is data. And the more we learn to look at it that way, the better I think we operate in this very short little casing of life that we have. Folks talk about the dash. We only got the dash. So I think we're better able to operate within our dash if we realize that it's all data and it's just something for me to do something with.
Beautiful. I'm excited to talk to you about vision as well. Mm-hmm. I feel like you're going to have a lot to say about this. So vision, thinking about vision, vision for the future, vision for public health, vision for yourself, for other women in your community who are shaping your vision. Vision for your business or your family, whatever, all the things, all the visions.
Yes. So I am a doctoral researcher. My PhD that I'm pursuing is in international psychology. It is the love of my life. I feel like it was made for me. I realize other people have graduated from it, but it was made for me. This is like my thing.
That's right.
And in pursuit of this PhD and in the work that I'm doing, so the PhD is international psychology and my concentration is in organization and systems. So I'm really looking at how systems support or do not support people. Specifically, my interest is in high achieving, high performing women. And I realized that that vision is really important. The vision of oneself, like your identity. How do you define yourself makes a difference in how you present to others. One of the reasons that I call my company Momentology Media, people are like, oh, are you a design company? Is media? Is it newspapers? Right? No, it's how you show up in the world. So I call everybody world changers because I believe we all have that capability. And Momentology Media means using the Momentology method to shape how you show up in the world. And how you show up in the world is based on your identity and how you identify yourself. So one of the things that I developed recently, which will go into my dissertation, but is a leadership self-assessment form. It's a survey assessment. I made it because I'm a human-centered design strategist. I love personas. So it is persona and archetype based. So you take the assessment and you get your archetype and you get a persona. And what I think has been really interesting about this, as I'm looking at the data, the women who are filling it out, and men too. So, by the way, this is not necessarily just particular to women, but what I'm finding is that the clearer you are on what you're focused on, the better you're able to make adjustments in real time. And so, the vision that you have of yourself and how you want to show up may not be how you actually are showing up. And that only has to do with what you're focusing on. So a lot of times, unfortunately, women feel like there's a false narrative about that they are not capable if they can't do and carry all the things. We have internalized that our worth is tied to availability, how available we make ourselves to other folks, and also capacity. Like I don't have the capacity to do more. We have a lot of capacity. It's just misaligned, right? And so if you align, it's just like turning on a radio, right? The radio station is always playing, but you don't hear every station until you turn to it. So once you tune to it, like, oh, that's my jam, right? The jam was already playing before you got there. The same thing can be said for our identities and the successes that we want to see in life. If we are attuned to the identity that most fills us up, all of a sudden doors open, people show up, experiences happen because we are tuned in to the identity that most supports our journey. And so that's what this assessment is meant to start to uncover. Like, okay, this is a persona and it can change. You can do this one this year and then next year your focus is somewhere else. So it has nothing to do with your capability, right? It's only to do with the alignment to the purpose that you want to see achieved in the world.
I love that. And I really want to take your assessment.
I will make sure you get it. Absolutely.
We'll talk about that later.
Yes.
That is fascinating.
I've been
so what about you?
Results. So some people take it and they're like, I feel like I'm this, but then I took the assessment and it's like, you know what? I might be this, or that's what I'd like to focus on, but my actions are not aligned to that.
Yes.
So it becomes like this guardrail that you can go, oh, you know what? Well, this is who I say I want to be. This is what I want to do. I need to change these actions this way. Or you know what? I'm done with that. This is not that era for me in life. I want to be over here. So let's change your actions to align to that particular vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about your vision for yourself?
Oh, I'm notorious in my house for being the one that never remembers her dreams. I do not. I dream. I know I dream. I must dream. But I don't remember them. And my daughter will sit there and just in detail, all the things. I'm like, how do you do that? I can't remember a thing. Once I wake up, it's gone. But I have this lucid waking vision of me sort of like standing in like almost like amphitheater, right? And there are women out in the space in front of me, and they all have a light in their heart space. And as I'm talking, I have no idea what I'm saying, but the light just gets brighter and brighter. And that's something that's just, I don't remember when I first started seeing that, but it's something that kind of buoys me when I feel like what am I even doing? Does anything that I do make a difference? I think about that vision that I have, that there are women that are out there that they have the light. It just needs to be connected to another light. So I have a mission to empower 1,000 women, to empower another 1,000 women. And the reason I didn't just say 1 million is because I don't think that is just me that's just going to give these people like the empowerment kind of thing. I think that helping women to see the light in themselves so that they can share it with others is where we get to true transformation. So that's my vision that's my through line for every single thing that I do. And that's my vision for me. And I think that's my purpose on the planet.
You're talking about, exponential growth, and you're right. You don't have to empower 1 million women, but if you empower, 1,000 women, and then they empower 1,000 women, and then they empower 1,000 women, you're going to surpass 1 million pretty darn fast. And that's, as an infectious disease epidemiologist, that's transmission, right? Mm-hmm. That's like transmitting. It's not transmitting disease, but it's transmitting this other piece. And I love examples where we can transmit to our benefit.
Yes.
We can transmit things. Yes.
And from a public health perspective too, to me, it's transmitting wellness and wholeness, right?
Yes.
So, the WHO's definition of what health is or what disease is the absence, right? The absence of disease.
Yep.
I think wellness is beyond the absence of disease. It is a state of, and I don't know another way to put it, but a state of love that is so encompassing that you care for others. Others are being cared for, whether it's physically, mentally, whatever the case may be, in absence of judgment, right? And so I think that's the part that we miss, because I'm putting myself temporarily in this box, but like as healthcare, either providers, professionals, people who serve other people in maybe a health-related capacity, we tend to think we know what's best. Right. Yeah. And one of the things that I have been learning within my research in my program of study is like when I was in undergrad and grad school before, I didn't become a clinical psychologist, and I couldn't really put my finger on why at the time. And I think I now come to a realization that when I was studying psychology before, it was all based on like 5 old white dudes from Europe. Right. Like it didn't seem like we really were talking about the expanse of humanity. And then everything you cited were back to them. And their end was like so small, like, right. One dude just studied his kids, for crying out loud. So it's like, what are we actually talking about? But in this program, we've talked about Cameroonian psychologists, Vietnamese, Mexican, indigenous people, and that what the ancestors have to say, and like, the spiritual, like all of these things make up the human experience. And if we care for the entire human experience, then public health gets easy. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think for me, that's the tie-in, and why I am still drawn so much to health equity and just realizing that we all have the right to live and breathe. And how do we make that accessible to everyone?
So I should have asked. So I'm glad that you explained the difference between getting a degree in psychology and a degree in international psychology. Mm-hmm. International psychology is not about taking the, white male centric model and applying it internationally. It's actually, let's remove the white male centric framework.
Yes.
And look at frameworks from other people. Is that a fair way to?
That is it, because it's like the Western society has dominated the narrative in psychology and most of the scientists, right, about how they say things should go. part of the work, part of my dissertation is the recognition of a phenomenon that I'm calling extraction fatigue. And those of us in the, quasi-medical field will recognize compassion fatigue, doctors, nurses, even firefighters, those who kind of put their lives on the line and they get burned out. Yeah. One of the differences between compassion fatigue and what I call extraction fatigue is that I did not ask to be born a Black woman in America, pursuing the goals that I am pursuing, being in the spaces that I am. You want to be a doctor. I mean, it might be hard and you might have a reason that's your personality, but it's of your own volition. When I am born into the space that I am, there are a level of set cultural expectations that come with, right? And I think that a lot of light bringers, world changers, people who want to change the world, people who are interested in social impact and that sort of thing, they give, and they don't have room for themselves. They give into a space where they're dealing with secondary and tertiary trauma, but they're not making room for themselves. So that seems to be, and I've come to now focus more on women because just women wind up in the nursing and the teaching and the right, the fields where there is a sense of nurturing, but are we nurturing ourselves? And the answer is usually no, right? Yeah. And so that's where, and I think that's why I said as a through line, I'm going to empower these women who are going to empower communities, men, women, children, and all, right? Yep. Through this process. And I think that's been that's my calling.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great calling. That's powerful.
I think again, I think it shows I didn't choose it.
You didn't choose it.
It's a part of who I am. And I started recognizing these things. I'm an empath. I didn't know what that meant when I was younger. Now I do. Yeah. So now, and I also recognize the power that I can have in helping people. But I also need to sometimes turn that mirror around and focus myself and my breathing. And you can't be all the things you need to be in the world if you are not whole yourself.
Right. And of course, what a great model to then show to your boys for sure, but especially to your daughter.
Yeah. Oh, she was born with it. I tell everybody she is like the Momentology in a bottle. I don't. She has a sense of urgency, a sense of self, and an unapologetic herdness that it's remarkable. So I'm just bottling that up and putting it out there.
Yep. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Malaika, thank you so much for coming on the Courageous Public Health podcast. And I knew we would have so much to talk about, and I'm glad we hit the reset button so we could get the full interview done. Fantastic.
Absolutely. This has been wonderful. I appreciate you and the work that you're doing. I told you when we first met, yes to all of these things. This is very crucial and needed conversation. So I appreciate you doing this work.
So let's make sure that our listeners know the best way to connect with you. What is the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I practically live in LinkedIn. So if you go to LinkedIn and look for Momentology Media or Malaika, Malaika, you will find, actually there are now more than one Malaika, which I found hilarious. That's a whole other story. But yes, Malaika Simmons on LinkedIn, and momentologymedia.com is my website.
Great. We will put links to all of those things in the show notes. So it'll be easy for people to
Fantastic. And I'll also put in the servant leader type finder.
Oh, beautiful. So
yep.
We'll
put a link to that too. It will show you some things.
Yeah. Fantastic. Great. Okay. Well, pleasure to have you. And I look forward to staying connected.
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much for having me.
Sometimes courage is recognizing that someone else's assumptions do not define who you are. Sometimes courage is letting go of the need to control every outcome and learning to respond intentionally to the moment in front of you. Sometimes courage is trusting yourself enough to stay aligned with your values, even when the path ahead isn't completely clear. Dr. Malaika Simmons reminds us that leadership begins with awareness of who we are, what matters to us, and how we choose to show up in the world. When we lead from that place of alignment, our decisions become clearer, our relationships become stronger, and our impact becomes more meaningful. If this conversation resonated with you, these are exactly the kinds of leadership capacities we help organizations strengthen through Courageous Public Health. Our workshops help leaders navigate complexity, uncertainty, competing demands, and systems change while staying connected to their values, their judgment, and their purpose. Because leadership isn't just about what we do, it's also how we show up when the stakes are high. If you'd like to learn more, you'll find ways to connect with us in the show notes. Until our next episode, stay courageous.
Thank you for listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Visit courageouspublichealth.com to find the show notes for each episode and learn how to connect with us.